Okay. First of all, there's one thing that I spoke about last week that I had to do research on, which is regarding the burning of the wicks and the oil after Chanukah. So the story is like this. The story is that really there's two opinions here. What does this mean? We mentioned last time that after the 50 minutes are up, or after the half hour are up when you light the Chanukah candles, so technically, according to certain opinions, you're allowed to have benefit of the candles after that time. It's only during the amount of time that is needed for the mitzvah when the candles have this special holiness, whatever, you can't use the light of the candles. After the Zman you could, according to some opinions. According to other opinions, you can't have benefit because there's different reasons given. Some people say, really, you could have benefit, but people might not understand, might not realize that this is after the Zman. So people might think that you lit it for your own benefit. They won't realize that it's because the time already elapsed. You shouldn't have benefit. So yeah. But there's other opinions. Some people say that be'etzem mitzvahs or whatever it is. So the Shulchan Aruch writes that the oil that remains, just that it says that the oil that remains after Chanukah you have to burn, it's only talking about the oil, let's say if a person lit his candle and it went out within the half hour, so there was oil that remained, we light a little bit earlier, so we leave oil for 50 minutes. So if there's any oil that remained from the amount of time that it had to burn in order to fulfill the mitzvah of Chanukah licht, which is a half hour, whatever, according to our meaning 50 minutes, so then that oil you have to burn because that oil was designated for the mitzvah of Chanukah. The mitzvah of Chanukah has to burn for a certain shear. So if the candle went out earlier and there was some oil left from that shear, that you have to burn. Now, B'Poel Mamish, there are other opinions. This is what the Shulchan Aruch writes. Shulchan Aruch writes is that oil that's left from the shear, from the actual shear that you need for lighting. On the other hand, the other opinions, Magen Avraham brings down that other people say that no. Other people say that when you fill up your Menorah with oil, you're not having in mind that the thing should go out. In your mind, it's as if, unless you make a stipulation, a t'nai ahead of time, but you're not setting aside the rest of the oil for Chanukah candles, and you set that, in other words, unless you make a stipulation that whatever remains I could use for my own benefit, so l'chayra b'stam, and the person is not thinking either way. So l'chayra, when he's filling it up, so he thinks that it's going to burn out, and he's having in mind that it's burning l'shem mitzvah. It's burning for the sake of the Chanukah licht. So therefore, those that say that any oil that remains, even if it burned for a long time, but there was still oil that remained in the thing, that oil you have to burn as well. So Magen Avraham says that it's not necessarily whatever you could argue with these opinions, but he says a person should make a t'nai. The best thing to do is, in order to avoid before Chanukah, whatever it is, to make a t'nai, whatever oil that's going to remain, or wicks that are going to remain after, after the Zman. So they're not. Whatever oil is going to remain after the Zman, you're not designating for the mitzvah, and therefore you could use it for whatever you want. So if that were to be the case, so you obviously you don't have to burn the remaining oil or anything after Chanukah unless it went out within the first half hour, which is very unlikely. And even if
you're sitting there anyway, so you're
right. And even if it goes out, our minhag is we relight it within the first half hour. But with that of klal, in most cases, people are not going to really have oil that was designated for the first half hour, 50 minutes of Chanukah. But nevertheless, it's definitely better to make it t'nai. Now, we discussed about throwing it into the garbage, right? So the Mike says, if you hold, those opinions that are strict, that say that all the oil was designated for Chanukah licht, unless you made a stipulation, l'chayra would come out that according to them, you shouldn't be able to throw it into the garbage, because it's a bizoyim, it's embarrassment for the Chanukah licht. And all the oil that was
Sure.
Yes. Good.
Sure.
all the oil that was designated for the Chanukah licht, even more than the shear, according to them, is considered set aside for the mitzvah. Not only that, but those that given added, there's a whole discussion that the Chanukah...
New battery.
There's a whole discussion that the Chanukah candles are similar to the oil that were in the Beis HaMikdash, so it has a certain holiness. So, in the laws of halacha, there's a difference. Let's say tzitzit strings, right? Once they're cut, once they're cut off of a beged. So, according to halacha, you're allowed to just throw them in the garbage. It's best not to, because it's not the best thing to do. But meikar then you're allowed to. But then there's something called hashmish kedusha. Let's say a part of tefillin, or the tzuas of tefillin, that got ripped. Those things you have to put in shemus, because those things have a holiness to them. There's some people that say that the oil of Chanukah has a certain level of holiness as well. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to say like those people that the whole oil that was set aside for that you put into the Menorah, you're not allowed to have any benefit from, even after or even more than just the shear of a half hour, 50 minutes. Particularly if you're going to say that they have a level of holiness as well. So then definitely would come out that you shouldn't throw them in the garbage. The only thing is, maybe if worse comes to worse, if you double wrap it and you cover it with a bag that with a black bag that you can't see through, maybe it's not such a bizarre in nicht. But definitely to
what if you have olive oil that you use for cooking?
No.
And you ran out of olive oil, but you had that cooking olive oil.
No.
You're allowed to use it.
Why not?
Okay. Are you allowed to use the rest of it afterwards?
Sure. Whatever remains in the bottle, not only that, if you especially buy a bottle for Chanukah, you buy a bottle of oil designated for the Chanukah Menorah, and you filled up your Menorah, and you had still oil remaining in the bottle, you could do with that oil whatever you want. The only question is, the oil that actually is in the Menorah itself, and you filled it up in the Menorah, any oil that remains in the Menorah itself, that's where it says you should burn it.
But throwing it out, you said last week you should. I know my father used to keep it all the year until Pesach.
Some people are knowing to take all that Chanukah, the wicks with the floats and the oil, and you burn it after Chanukah.
Yeah, some people burn it on Zeus Chanukah.
Yeah, they burn it.
Some people burn it, they make the whole thing. Some people do it b'reivam, they say...
Just like you burn the esrog, the lulav, not the esrog, I mean the lulav and the other minim, Erev Pesach,
Again, according to those that say that after oil that remains after is burned for half hour, 15 minutes, you're allowed to have benefits from. According to them, there's no kedusha, there's nothing left, you're allowed to throw it in the garbage. If you're going to, however, according to those that say that there is, and it seems that when the Magen Avram says that you should make a t'nai ahead of time before you fill up the menorah, whatever it is, you should just make a t'nai that whatever oil that's going to remain, you're not designating that remains after the first half hour. You're not designated the 15 minutes the way we lied earlier, so you need to wait 15 minutes.
What's the 15 minutes? It has to wait half hour after Nacht?
Yeah, 50 minutes comes out, the way the Rebbe explains in the letter, since we lied earlier, we lied before Tzeisek Yechavim.
Right.
So therefore you have the shear of 15 minutes is that it should burn a half hour into Tzeisek Yechavim. Yeah. So why exactly 50 minutes? I mean, from Shkia...
What do you say, 15 minutes or 50?
50, 50.
50.
But the interesting, if you saw Hayom Yom, it says only half hour.
The Rebbe Rashab would sit by the candles for half hour. Sitting by the candle is only for half hour. But the length of time that how much the candles have to burn is 15 minutes.
No, the candles. So why did they make the candles, the Chanukah candles, the candles itself?
The candles itself,
they only a half hour. They burn only half hour. But mostly the 35 minutes.
Yeah. So those candles, if you're lighting those candles,
well, how come nobody fixes them?
Why?
To burn 50 minutes.
Too expensive.
Because it's not out of style.
What kind of style? What do you mean by style?
I don't know. This
if the halacha is that way, so why?
No, the halacha is it has to burn. The halacha
it's not style. It's halacha.
Halacha is it has to burn for half hour. Depends. Certain people light it early. We light it before Tzeisek Yechavim. If you're lighting it after Tzeisek Yechavim, there's no problem lighting those candles. because they burn for a half hour is good.
Okay.
The only problem, and not the problem, the thing is, according to us, that we light earlier, so we have to let it burn. The problem is on Friday. The real problem with those candles is on a Friday. On Friday, if you light with them, they're not going to...
On Friday, they burn about 2 hours. You put in enough oil, they burn 2 hours.
No, but if you're going to light them...
No, the candles.
The small candles.
Yeah. No, not the candles.
Yeah.
Not the small candles, the big ones.
Right, they're fine. But the small candles, you have a problem with on Friday. So throwing it in the garbage, is, if you didn't make it tonight, and you're, according to the way it seems that you were choishish for those opinions that all the oil that remains you should burn unless you made it tonight. Throwing in the garbage also would be problematic. Unless you're going to double wrap it and cover it in a way that it's not noticeable, that it's putting it in the garbage, it's not a bizoyin. Maybe, but it's still a bizoyin technically, just it's not so noticeable, basically.
You can make the same tonight with the with tzitzis too. Anything which gets cut off.
Tzitzis is not like this. Make it then there's no problem. You don't have to make it tonight. Make it then once the tzitzis is cut off, now this becomes possible, there's no problem. Elamaya, those that say that it's, you shouldn't use it, you shouldn't throw it in the mocking bizoyin.
I've opened up a safer and
some people put it if they're reason. Rabbi writes in the doctor.
It's like the beard, I just blow it off.
Yeah. Tzitzis you should leave in. Rabbi writes that the medaktikin b'mitzvahs, those are they are careful not to throw do something of bizoyin. Now the truth is that even Shabbos candles, what I saw is interesting that some people that are medayik, again from the letter of the law, I don't think you can't be mechayiv anybody, but there's even Shabbos candles. I saw that some people that the remnants of the Shabbos candles they wouldn't just throw out. They would cover it before they throw it out. They consider it a bizoy, an embarrassment to stop throw it out. But there are certain people that are medaktik, since it was done with a mitzvah, so they're careful not to throw it openly into the garbage. So they cover it over with something.
So you put it in the bag.
In a non-see-through bag. I'm saying, b'chlal, it seems I never saw people doing it, but I saw the reason. When I was looking up these halachas, I saw there's certain people that they're medayik, that they're very mahada, that anything that remains from a mitzvah, not to throw it out, not to do it in a makkah bizoyin. So then halachas kam and they get Chanukah. But even those that are not.
Why halachas kam?
Because Chanukah, according to some opinions, like even the oil that remains after this man, you have to burn. You can't have any enough from it. So people on Shabbos and other things which you allowed you technically you don't ikra din is you don't have to, because you will do with it whatever you want and so on. Let's move on to the next subject. Yeah. That was regarding. I wanted to be mevader that. Tonight is Rish Chodesh. Every Chanukah is Rish Chodesh. This year it's 2 days. So there's a run of the mill. It's not as if there's any to say that is a regular Rish Chodesh. The only difference is, besides Yalav Yaval Hanisim also, and Kriyas HaTorah, is you take out 2 Sifrei Torah, and the Rish Chodesh, instead of having 4 aliyahs, just in the Rish Chodesh, you have 3 aliyahs in the Rish Chodesh, and the next 4th aliyah is in Chanukah, just that day it's Nasi. He has over here, he goes through exactly what to do. You put down the second Sefer Torah after the first 3 aliyahs, and then you do Hagbah. Chatzi Kaddish is only after this, you read the second Sefer Torah.
So what do you do?
You read 3 aliyahs in Rish Chodesh.
Right.
Then you put down the second Sefer Torah. Then you do Hagbah on the first one.
Without anything in between.
Right. And then you read just that day's Nasi. In regular day of Chanukah you read It's we say whole halal because of Chanukah. But you do the Seder of davening is like Rish Chodesh. After Halal, you say the Avram Zokein.
You say the Yom.
You say Avram Zokein. There's a two.
The two.
Avram Zokein is.
Why we're the only ones who say it? Why is that?
We're the only one. I don't know. I've never been down at the city.
What did you say?
Avram Zokein.
Yeah.
We're the only ones who say it.
Yeah. Other ones don't. Other people don't say it.
I know.
I never saw it with someone else in it.
No.
So you have, and then there's the whole Kaddish, and then there's the Shir Shel Yoyim, and the Seder is like Rosh Chodesh, the davening, but the Kriyas HaTorah is Chanukah is a whole Hallel. Fine. Wednesday night we start saying the same Umatar. Wednesday night we start saying the same Umatar.
Wednesday night.
Yeah. So
sometimes it's the 5th. Sometimes. Sometimes it's on the 5th of December.
And
it is.
It is.
It's the 4th. It's on the 4th by night. The first day
it's on
is
the 4th to the 5th.
My Wednesday night
is the 4th. Is the 5th.
Is at 12 o'clock will be the 5th.
Mm.
Depends. Certain years it fluctuates between one and the other. It's either the 5th or 6th of December that we start. According.
The what?
It's either the 5th or 6th of December.
Yeah.
It's
funny how it's the English month. Why is it?
In Eretz Yisrael, they start saying Saint Halmata Zayin Cheshem. Why did they start Zayin Cheshem? Really, Eretz Yisrael is a mountainous country, so they need rain early. So technically, they should it's brought down in Chanukah, technically they should start davening for rain right after Sukkot, right after Simchas Torah. You start saying Mashiv V'roch Amari Dageshem and Shmini Atzeret, so they should start asking the same Talmud also. Elamai, the problem was that people went up to Eretz Yisrael, they had to go back home. In those days they didn't have, they didn't fly. They didn't fly by plane. They traveled.
They traveled in the mud.
Whatever it is, no, if it didn't rain, there was no mud. You didn't want them to travel in the mud. So you didn't daven for rain.
That's why they waited.
That's why they waited for rain.
Because they don't want them to travel in the mud.
Right. Or even if there's no mud, but it's not easy to travel when it's raining. It's not a pleasant trip. So they waited until the last Jew came back to Nahar Pras, the Euphrates River. So that took 15 days, so they started Zayin Cheshem. The Alter Rebbe said that even after the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash, nevertheless, people would still come up. People would come up from the surrounding areas to Yerushalayim to spend Yom Tov, even though there was no Beis HaMikdash. So now, what about? So that's regarding Eretz Yisrael. Now, the Gemara was set up in Bavel, right, in Babylonia, in Iraq. That country is a flat terrain. At least, I guess that part, which is where and the part where the Alter Rebbe is talking about, at least, there are mountains there, I think, but I don't know. I don't know. It's more or less a flat terrain, and they don't need so much rain because there's a lot of water nearby. So there they would start requesting for rain. When did they need rain? They needed it. They started 60 days after the Tkufa. We know that there's four Tkufas. There's 4 days of like when seasons begin.
Yeah.
So there's the secular Tkufas, and then but here it works as an interesting cheshbon over here. The way we go is by Tkufa Shmuel. There's actually different opinions how you estimate the Tkufa. So we go by Tkufa Shmuel. I believe according to Shmuel, the Tkufa is the 7th of October. According to Shmuel, I think it's the secular. They also have, but the secular, I think it's the 23rd of. They have to have it's towards the end of September, I think. Is there the scientific beginning of the season? But Shmuel from the Gemara, he had his cheshbon of Tkufa. So it started the Tkufa of Tishrei when the season, it falls out at a certain time. So we start saying the same Umatar 60 days from then. But it's not really 60 days because we count the day we start saying the same Umatar and the day of the Tkufa as part of 60 days. So it could be just 58, something around 58 days. It's 58 days besides the day that you're counting, start saying the same Umatar, and the day that this period of Tishrei started. So it comes out according to Shmuel. It's about 5th or 6th. Depends in the secular calendar. I think one of the months sometimes has 2 days or has an extra day.
February.
So I think based on that it will depend whether it's the
28 days, 29 days.
Whether it's the 5th of December, the 6th of December. I think will depend on this.
Oh, interesting.
Episodes. I'm not sure.
Now, what happens in Australia? Do they go? They do the same bracha now?
I'll get to that in Australia in a second. The question is not only in Australia. The question really is, what about all over the world? So Bavel in Babylonia, the Rebbe writes, it seems that they only needed rain from that point. It's not such a mountainous region like Eretz Yisrael. So they only needed rain then. So they started for rain. That Rebbe says because they would sow the things in the ground later. That Rebbe says in other countries they start sowing, they need rain already from Chatzi Tishrei, Sukkot's time they're already sowing and planting. So they need rain already then. So the question is, each country, those opinions, that there's a whole discussion. Some people said that each country should ask for rain when they need it. Some people need rain even during the summer also. They need a lot of rain. So, there's a whole discussion here. The bottom line is, B'Poel Mamish, the way it was accepted was, even though al pi seichel, according to logic, one could say that each country should ask for rain when they need it. So I don't know, in America, I was trying to check up, I'm not good in farming, but in America I think they sow different things that there's all season.
The whole year.
The whole year you could use rain for...
They need a whole year. And here you need rain all the time.
They're sowing, I don't know if it's they need the rain all year or because you have rain all year, so they sow, they sow whatever it is, but different things they sow.
It's not rain, it's water. They need water.
Yeah.
They need water. It doesn't matter where the water comes from the ground or from the heaven.
Right. So there's winter wheat and summer wheat, and there's different things that are grown at different times of the year. Although technically, I don't know if they need. I was thinking that it could be because you have rain all year in America, so that's why the farmers. I don't know. I'm not a big bucky in how agriculture works, but anyway, a place like America, let's say, why should you start so late? Start earlier. Let's say in Europe, I saw the Aruch HaShulchan writes in Europe, they Bechlal used to only sow in the summer. So he says, you should say then. But Poel Mamish, the accepted thing is that the halach was accepted, we do like Bavel. But the thing would be, if somebody, let's say, said by mistake, for saying Umatar before the 5th or 6th of December, he said it after Zayin Cheshem. So in a country where they need rain earlier, so he said if he went like Eretz Yisrael, he doesn't have to go back. Because he said the same Talmud that although we start by Bavel, we only start the 5th or 6th of December, but according to certain opinions, he should have really started saying the same Talmud earlier in countries that they need rain earlier. Yeah. So if you said the same Talmud earlier before the time that we actually start, you don't have to go back and daven over, because technically this is the time that this country needs rain. So there's nothing wrong with asking the same Talmud. There's two things: Mashviroch Umerid Geshem and the same Talmud. Mashivroch Umerid Geshem has cut. It's not a request for rain. Mashivroch Umerid Geshem we're saying as a shvach. In the second bracha, the first 3 brachas of Shemoneh Esrei are shvach, are praise to Hashem. So we mentioned one of the praises of Hashem is that He brings rain. So we're not asking for rain. The same Talmud which we say in Baruch Aleinu is a request for rain. So although Shmini Atzeres we say Geshem and we daven about Geshem, but it's more because we're starting to mention Geshem, but we're not starting to daven on a daily basis for rain. And Australia is like this. In Australia is geworden a ganze Shaila. Came a whole Shaila, and the Poel Mamish, the minig in Australia is to follow the rest of the world. The Rebbe once spoke a whole sikh where the Rebbe said that l'ch'oira in Australia they should say it differently. So then in Australia, l'ch'oira, they should say it in reverse. they should say Mashiv Ruach Omedet by them when by us is winter is summer, by us is summer is winter.
Yeah.
So they should really say it in reverse. They should say Mashiv Ruach Omedet HaGeshem. Start saying it Pesach. Omedet HaTol. They should say in the Shmini Atzeres. So the Rebbe spoke a Sikha, then, and the Rebbe said, that's the way it should be. So people right away wrote to the Rebbe, they wanted to make a whole thing to change. Because the Rebbe said, Chas v'shalom, they shouldn't start making the Mumachlikas, and they should invest their energy in Avos Yisrael. But Mamish, the way the minig was set up, that's the way it's done. The Rebbe didn't want to change the minig. The Rebbe was saying, theoretically, Utaka makes sense, that the same bracha, the same Umatar should be in reverse.
Also, they say...
But they say the way we say it.
Also December 4th.
Yeah,
okay.
They start when we start. The only thing is, in certain countries like that, it's best that they should say in Shemei Tefillah, they should say the same Umatar during their winter.
Oh, that's interesting.
Now, what happens if somebody made a mistake and forgot to say Umatar? Yeah. So, Saint Umatar is one of the things you could make up a number of places. First of all, if you already said Baruch Atah Hashem before you already said Hashem's name, Baruch Atah Hashem, Mevarech Hashonim. So right after the bracha, Mevarech Hashonim, you could say right there, Saint Umatar the bracha.
After?
Right after the words Mevarech Hashonim.
We have minion.
Yeah.
Yeah. We still got time. If
you didn't remember there, then say it in the middle of Shemei Tefillah.
I know.
In the middle of Shemei Tefillah, you could say it there also. Before Kat Shemei Tefillah's Koppah, you say V'sein Umatar Levrach. If you didn't remember by Shemei Tefillah, you didn't remember there, right between Shemei Tefillah and Ritzei, you could also say V'sein Umatar Levrach. If you still didn't remember, you forgot even there, so you go back to Baruch Aleinu. Once you already said the second Niyul Ratzon, right before you go back, then you have to daven over again.
So why would you need to say it again if you have, when you say V'sein Umatar Levrach, it's the same, when you say the same bracha, V'sein Umatar Levrach is also involved. You have V'sein and bracha, you're just missing the Umatar.
You didn't specify what you want the bracha for.